2026 is an extremely important year when it comes to AI in music production. The landscape is quickly changing, so it's important that we stay informed so we don't get left behind. Today, I'm going to be reacting to a video by Audio University talking about the future predictions of AI in music production and how it's going to impact us as people. Make sure you stay tuned to the very end of this video because this is critically important information that you definitely don't want to miss out on. Without further ado, let's get into it.
I haven't talked about it much on this channel, but I think it's time to make a video on what could be one of the most consequential shifts in music history: artificial intelligence. The CEO of SonarWorks published research where he interviewed over 100 industry professionals about AI and music production. At the time, the scenarios they drew based on that research might have seemed very speculative, but here's what's interesting. We're now in 2026, and all three of those scenarios they modeled, slow disruption, fast disruption, and no disruption, predicted that right now would be the inflection point, the moment where things start to accelerate, either quickly or slowly. So I went back and read through the research, and I want to walk through what they predicted versus where we actually are. And more importantly, I want to talk about what this means for us as musicians, engineers, producers, and people who genuinely care about music. Let me quickly thank SonarWorks for sponsoring this video and providing the results of their research as the basis for this discussion. You may recognize the name SonarWorks from their flagship product Sound ID Reference, which is a product that I and many others in the industry use every day to calibrate and optimize the performance of studio monitors and headphones. If you're interested in learning more, you can find links to both Sound ID Reference and their newer tool, Voice AI, in the show notes below the video, along with a link to the data I'll be referencing. Because SonarWorks is so popular, they have access to some of the most prominent engineers and developers in the business. So I take the data they gathered pretty seriously, especially coming from a company with technical and economic understanding of our industry, as well as a very strong reputation among industry professionals. Before getting into the scenarios they predicted, let's zoom out for a second and remember that our industry has been disrupted in the past. That's the world we work in. It's cyclical, it's volatile, and it affects everyone involved, from artists and labels all the way to us in the production world. Whether we look at the transition from one delivery media to another, or from one production paradigm to another, it's been a tumultuous go for those in the industry. Although it's important to note that at the end of the day, people still made music throughout all of those shifts, which is perhaps the most fundamental difference that makes the topic of AI so unsettling. And when you look at the adoption rates of AI tools for the general public, that unsettling feeling only deepens. It took Uber 70 months to reach 100 million users, and ChatGPT did it in 2 months. That's 5 times faster than TikTok, which was already breaking records. The question isn't really, will AI impact music production? Because it clearly already has. The question is, to what extent and how quickly? The research from SonarWorks breaks down music production into 4 modes. And I think this is a very helpful framework for understanding what we're actually talking about here. First, you've got human-generated content. That's the traditional model where someone writes a song, someone performs it, and someone records, mixes, and masters it. That might be the same person, it might be different people, but it's people in every case. The second mode is AI-assisted. And this is where a lot of people are right now. You're still doing the work, but AI tools are helping you. Stem separation, AI-powered mixing suggestions, vocal transformers, etc. A human is still deeply involved in the process, but some tasks are outsourced to AI.
Yeah, I think quite a few music producers and engineers are currently at number 2, AI assisted. Even if you are anti-AI when it comes to music composition and songwriting and things of that nature, the majority of music creators are okay with AI assistance because it seems more as a utility, it seems more of a helper to the creative process as opposed to a replacement. But that's just kind of the beginning phases. Some people are kind of forecasting things, looking down the road and saying, hey, humans may not even be necessary in the future. Some say that's a little bit of fear mongering, but we never really know at this stage. But let's go ahead and get back into the video.
A human is still deeply involved in the process, but some tasks are outsourced to AI. Third, we have the AI-generated mode. This is where you type in a prompt and you get back a finished song. The AI composed it, performed it, mixed it, and mastered it, so to speak, but in reality, it just generates a complex waveform based on the training data and the prompt. The traditional processes of music production are entirely replaced by another very different process. And if you haven't tried services like Suno and Udio lately, they might surprise you at how capable they've become. The fourth mode is real-time AI-generated content. Music that's created on the fly based on context. Think about a video game that generates music that responds to what's happening in the game. Now imagine your streaming service doing that same thing based on your mood, your environment, and your behavior. When the research was conducted, modes 3 and 4 might have seemed a bit far-fetched for a lot of people. But here we are in 2026, and you can go generate a complete song right now in less than 5 minutes.
Now that's super interesting and even a little strange. I couldn't imagine listening to a platform like Spotify and then based on how I'm feeling, Spotify adapting to the type of music that it wants to play for me. Like, let's say I'm in the gym and I'm hitting my last set and I want to hear some real aggressive trap music, then it automatically plays it for me. But then I kind of want to listen to some R&B, but then my heart rate is still up and I'm driving somewhere and then it's still playing aggressive trap music. That's a little strange. It feels a little invasive, but I definitely think it's possible, especially for people who wear like things like Apple Watches and fitness trackers. And, a lot of our data is being sold and swapped amongst companies, and sometimes with our consent, sometimes without our consent. And it seems like that data could be used to, of course, feed streaming services, music services to get us more addicted to the platform. It looks like that's probably going to be the future of music. At least so far, it's looked like that's what's being predicted. But let's go ahead and get back into the video.
Okay, here's where it gets interesting. SonarWorks modeled 3 different scenarios in their research for how this could all play out. And all 3 of them predicted that 2026 was going to be a critical year. The first scenario is slow disruption. In this scenario, AI advancement continues, but legal battles slow things down. There's pushback from rights holders, copyright gets complicated, and it takes about 10 years for AI-generated content to catch up to human-generated content in terms of market share. But even in the slow scenario, they predicted that by 2026, we'd start seeing AI content taking a noticeable share of the market. The second scenario is fast disruption. This is the scenario where technology steamrolls ahead with no real barriers. In this model, 2026 is where the curve really starts to bend upward, and by 2030, AI-generated music would be dominating, and we'd see a major shift in how streaming services operate, how producers work, and how the economics of the whole industry function.
All right, so 2030 in this specific scenario seems to be a tipping point. That definitely sounds like something that a lot of producers, a lot of creatives don't want to hear, just AI taking over and really becoming a dominant force. And what I can say is that I still feel like the real in-person interaction of people is going to be important. I've mentioned in a lot of my videos that I think a counterculture, an anti-AI counterculture is definitely going to emerge if it isn't emerging now already. Bandcamp has recently said that they've banned AI from their platform as of this time of recording. So, guys out there, if you do enjoy, real music, then definitely make sure you sign up for Bandcamp and support those independent recording artists, because this could possibly be, that could be one of the safe havens in the future, at least in this specific scenario. But let's go ahead and get back in this video.
The third scenario is no disruption. This is where serious legal, social, or technological roadblocks basically stop AI in its tracks, and AI gets relegated to elevator music and background content, while humans continue creating most of the music that people actually listen to.
Okay, so that scenario I feel like is a little naive. I think that there's definitely that school of thought that says that AI is just gonna, it's a bubble that's gonna burst. But I think that even if that does happen, it's still going to come back, and it's not just going to be relegated to just elevator music. I think AI is definitely a force to be reckoned with. At the same time, sometimes there is that panic, there is that clickbait element of, fear mongering that can come from talking about AI. I still believe that AI is really going to be a dominating force. It's already coming out full force.
So here we are in 2026. Which scenario are we in? In 2026, AI-generated music services are improving constantly, and AI-generated music is cropping up faster than ever. You can generate complete tracks with a few sentences, break those tracks apart with the click of a button, and you can turn a 5-second clip of me humming an out-of-tune melody into a fully polished product that sounds like a real person could have performed it. Although your results may vary. Not only that, but you could potentially repeat this process all day, every day, creating a flood of AI-generated content, what some might call slop, that is becoming increasingly more difficult to differentiate from music that takes 1,000 times longer to produce. At the same time, we are seeing legal battles. Rights holders are fighting back with lawsuits about training data and copyright, and some AI companies have pivoted their approach already. On the other hand, it seems that some of the most prominent rights holders aren't so much protecting the intellectual property from AI as they are ensuring that it can be monetized before the other shoe drops. In a more recent update from the SonarWorks CEO, he said, quote, "This year at NAMM 2025, the biggest pro audio show, we were surprised by how prevalent AI use is among top-level professionals we talked to. It seems AI use is widespread, but because of social stigma, many pros are reluctant to publicly admit it. And I've got to be honest, I feel that from my point of view as well. Truthfully, I'm afraid to be taken over by AI or others using it, while at the same time being afraid of the potential backlash that could come from embracing it, either in the comment sections of my videos or in the atrophy of my own ability to create and complete those tasks."
Yes, that is a conundrum that quite a few people who are creating music, at least releasing music commercially, working with independent recording artists in person, they're running into. On one hand, some people want to stick their chest out as the anti-AI, let's keep this all about the people. Let's push away AI. Let's not even engage in AI at all. And let's just keep things purely organic. And I think that it sounds good, but like he mentioned, there's the market aspect, there's the competition aspect, I don't want to use AI ethically because it's being trained on copyrighted materials, but at the same time, this band or this rap group or singing group who's coming into my studio has all these ideas, and another engineer or another producer is using AI. They're able to get it done in 15 to 20 minutes. How come I can't get it done in 15 to 20 minutes? And then that's going to hurt my pockets. And that's going to hurt my ability to feed my family, my kids, and things like that. So if you're just playing around with music, that's one thing. But if you're using music as a means of supporting yourself, that's a whole nother ball game. That's when you really have to ask these important questions for yourself. Where exactly do you stand in this argument? And unfortunately, it does sound like people are, capping, they're fronting, they're pretending like they're against AI, but behind the scenes, they're actually using it. They don't want people to know that they're using it out of fear of being ostracized or criticized or seen as a sellout or against the people. And, it's definitely tricky grounds. It's tricky territory, but let's get back into the video.
That's why I've taken a very measured approach, trying to stay current on what's happening without diving in headfirst. While we're on the topic, let's talk about what this means for us right now. For studio engineers, we're at a crossroads. AI-assisted workflows and tools can already potentially make you more efficient, but at the same time, the writing is on the wall. When AI can handle the whole process from beginning to end, the demand for our skills and our offerings will decrease. Not necessarily disappear, but they will certainly decrease. And the profit incentives at play would certainly suggest that decreased cost for creativity and production will be embraced by those who stand to benefit. To me, it seems that AI-assisted workflows are at the same time exciting and threatening. And as engineers, it seems unwise to pretend nothing is happening, and equally unwise to expect only upside from these new technologies.
Yes, that's the sticking the head in the sand aspect of new emerging technologies that tends to happen to some people. Sometimes, unfortunately, there will be companies or businesses that just say, I don't even want to engage in that kind of stuff. I kind of want to be happy in my ignorance. I think that's very unwise, because you need to at least be aware of what's happening in the landscape so you can position yourself to, like you mentioned, increase value, create new offerings for your clients, for people who purchase your products and services from you. If you're a studio and you're still using tape, as your main means of recording, as opposed to, Pro Tools or any other type of DAW, you're going to be stuck in the past. And like that, similar to that, not an exact comparison, but AI is going to be something that's going to take over, and people are going to have these expanding expectations. Let's get back into the video.
Producers and composers are in a similar yet different position. They can generate ideas faster, try arrangements that they couldn't have tried before, and they ultimately rely on fewer people to bring their ideas to fruition. For session musicians, especially those in commercial work, we're already seeing an impact. It's simultaneously fascinating and terrifying, because let's be real here, this is job displacement, and it's affecting real people right now, not in some distant imaginary future. Much of this could have been said about the shift from analog tape to digital audio workstations, and that wasn't entirely bad. In fact, it led to a lot more accessibility to musical creativity and expression. And AI has made music creation more accessible too in just the last couple of years, and there's something genuinely exciting about that. There's something genuinely exciting about more people being able to express themselves creatively.
Yeah, so jumping in on his point in reference to job displacement when it comes to like session musicians, I have a bass player, guitar player, piano player, these different people that I work with musically. And not too long ago, I was testing out Suno. I had a beat that was 97% done. And I thought, hey, let me just try this out and see what other type of elements could come in. And it just added this really cool piano loop to it. And I was like, oh man, that's what I needed. I probably wouldn't have directed my session musician to play something like that, but the idea that came out was really pleasing to the ear. And I was like, that's interesting. So instead of going back and forth with the session musician, I like this, I don't like this, change that, let's do this, just try another vibe, I can just, plug it into something like Suno, and I get the catch-22 when it comes to that. On one hand, I enjoy working with my session musicians. On the other hand, that's changing expectations. That's changing the speed that something can be completed without an external hand working on it. And it's honestly, the first thing I thought of was, this is concerning. I thought about the consequences of that and how that can impact other people. And that's once again tricky territory that we're walking in on. On one hand, I did that, but what's to stop a recording artist to say, hey, instead of getting Desmond's beat, I'll just compose the whole thing myself and cut him out too. So then the artist is just working with the platform, cutting me out, cutting the session musician out, and then it's, eventually the artists themselves could be cut out, and it's just a machine generating everything. I hate to sound, like fear mongering, but that's just a thought that just popped in my head when I thought about that. It's important to think about. It's a lot going on, but let's get back into the video.
If AI can do in seconds what used to take years of practice to learn, does that discourage people from putting in that work? That's an open question, and I'm interested to hear your thoughts in the comments. Here's what I keep thinking about though. And this is where I want to push back a little bit on the purely economic or technological analysis of this whole situation. When you listen to a great record, what makes it great? Is it just the technical execution? Is it just the end product? Or is there something else going on? Think about some of your favorite albums of all time. There are stories behind those records. There was the collaboration between the band members, the arguments, the breakthroughs at 3 a.m. when everyone was exhausted, the happy accident where someone played the wrong chord, but it sounded right, so they kept it. There were the engineers who ran into the limits of the equipment and found solutions that defined what nostalgia sounds like today and changed music forever. There's a reason we care about who recorded an album, who mixed it, what studio it was made in, what gear they used. Those stories matter. They matter to me at least, and I guess they matter to you too. Those stories give the music context and meaning. And I'm not convinced AI is going to replicate that, even if it can technically generate something that sounds good. The SonarWorks CEO goes on to say in the post, "I've had discussions on where music comes from. Is it a product of mechanical human skill and the computational power of the human brain? Or maybe there's something divine and transcendental that exists out there, and humans only act as manifestors when the time is right?" I don't know the answer to that question, but I do know that when I listen to music that moves me, there's usually a human story behind it that matters.
Great point. This is also a point that I've made in one of my previous videos, and that's AI can't create real stories, real human interactions. We all have favorite albums. We all have these different favorite stories when it comes to different albums that make things just so special, so magical. How did they come up with that? Why did this person rap it like that? Why did they sing it this way? Why did the song stop right here? I always thought this song was a little short. And then when you do your research, you figure out the story. Like, I just thought of the story of Lil Durk doing the verse on Drake's Laugh Now, Cry Later. The reason his verse was so short is because he was recording in the studio during the pandemic and it shut down and he had to get the verse to Drake. And that's why Durk's verse is so short. Things like that is pretty cool. And of course, there's many, many other, really, really fascinating stories. But that's just something that AI can't create. It can't create that real connection, the real circumstances that led up to the manifestation and the creation of the song. Let's get back into the video.
Can AI generate a song that sounds like it was mixed by a professional? Yes, absolutely it can. It can do that today. But can it understand what the artist is trying to say? Can it sense when a song needs to break the rules to serve the emotion? Can it build the relationship that makes the artist comfortable enough to be vulnerable? Can it create those happy accidents and legendary stories that we tell about our favorite records years and decades later? I don't think so. At least not in the way that we experience those things now. But here's the thing. We're at that inflection point the research predicted. 2026, right now, is the time that we need to make decisions about how we're going to navigate this. My advice, stay informed about AI, experiment with the tools that are relevant to your work, understand what they can do and what they can't do. Don't bury your head in the sand and hope this all goes away, because it's probably not going away. But at the same time, don't lose sight of what makes you valuable as a human being. Your creative judgment, your ability to understand what an artist is trying to express, your ears that can hear when something feels right, even when you can't explain why, your capacity to feel and express emotion, the stories you create through the work you do. Those things still matter. In fact, maybe now, with everything that's going on, they matter more than ever.
Yes, it is very important to stay informed when it comes to AI and music production. Like he mentioned, I did have to test out Suno to recognize what was happening, how good things actually sound, and how they would sound on my beats in order to come to certain conclusions. And I think that sometimes in this space, there's this need to put people in the pro AI box or anti-AI box. And if you don't make a definitive stance on it, then people can perceive you as fence straddling. You're someone who's just trying to make everyone happy. But with the fact that there is so many changing elements when it comes to AI, you could take a stance, and then if you take that stance, you've kind of boxed yourself in. And then now if AI tools get better and better and you've branded yourself as an anti-AI person or a super AI person, then people are looking at you strange. Like, okay, why are you going back and forth? Or like he mentioned earlier in the video, people are outright lying and, secretly using AI because they don't want to be criticized for it. But I think it is good to say I'm understanding the benefits and consequences of AI. I'm always informed on it, and I'm still working on how to best use it for myself, my production, and my workflow. I personally don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Looking at where we are today in 2026, do you think we're in the slow disruption scenario? or the fast one? Are you already using AI tools in your workflow? And if so, how are you using them? And do you think the human element, the stories, the collaboration, and the happy accidents, will they always matter? Let me know in the comments. I'm genuinely curious to see and hear where people stand on this today.
It's important for us to keep this dialogue going so that way we're seeing how everybody feels, how everybody is using the different tools. That's why I do want you guys to make your comments. I definitely learn from your comments. I like to engage in your comments. And I like to see you guys' different perspectives. You know, some people are straight songwriters, some people are older musicians, some people are younger beat makers, some people are in the middle and they're engineers. So there's different nuances in the positions that you guys are all in across the world. And I think this dialogue that we're continuing to have online just helps us to have proper perspective as opposed to talking at you guys. We want to engage with you and understand where exactly you're at when it comes to AI, how you're using it. So I want you to engage as well. So make sure you leave a comment. How are you guys using AI, and do you see it as beneficial? So let me know in the comments. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you hit like and subscribe. My name is Desmond A, and I'll be back with more great videos. Peace.